Well, it's the deal that no one saw coming. Golf reunited once again. The PGA Tour and LIV Golf uniting under the same umbrella, which could open the door for the world's best players to reassemble again. Reaction has been mixed, to say the very least, following the announcement. But what does the future of the sport look like under this agreement? Joining me live now is former pro golfer Mark Allen. Mark, great to see you. No one saw this coming. No one really predicted this, but what does it actually mean from here on in?
Well, those details are soon to be coming our way, Laura. Nice to be with you this morning. All we know, it's a merger, and I believe that. You know, you hear different things when sport and situations like this occur, but the more I read, the more I hear from the people who are involved in the merger, the more I'm really believing it. Now, the big question is, how are we going to appease the PGA Tour players that stayed loyal to the PGA Tour? And also, how are we going to appease some of the PGA Tour players and the DP World Tour players who weren't happy about the Saudi money being involved in the first place? These are the questions that have got to be answered. Now, we've heard little bits and pieces coming from the Canadian Open so far. There's a lot of discontent with some of the players. But as far as I can see, I think the Saudi people, they've got the best intentions for world golf. So I do believe we're going to see a bigger world tour. I don't think the PGA Tour is going to be affected too badly. I think that's going to pretty much stay the same. But I do think the trickle-down effect for Australia is going to be fantastic. What
about players like Rory McIlroy? I mean, he is rightly livid at this decision. Where does it leave players like him?
Look, that's another fabulous question.
Sorry, Mark, I'm throwing all the easy ones at you this morning.
He was saying that he doesn't hate the Saudi Arabian money. He hated LIV Golf. Now, that sounds like a contradiction to me. Everything that Rory's been saying the past couple of years about LIV Golf and Saudi money and everything else, now that as far as I'm concerned, is a backflip. Now, we know how much money's there in the investment fund from the Saudi Arabians as well. There are literally, we actually don't understand how much money's there. We can't comprehend it. So I would be staggered that people like Rory McIlroy, who was offered, let's say, around $200 million, just like some of the others, Hideki Matsuyama, who was offered $300 million over 4 years, same as Rory. All the contracts were over 4 years. You've got other players like John Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, the 1 and 2 players in the world as it sits at the moment. I would be staggered if they are not compensated in some way. Now, to buy in to the PGA Tour, to buy into world golf, I'm estimating, and this is just speculation, I'm estimating $2 to $3 billion per year for as long as they want to be involved.
Wow.
So the money's there, and, you know, we're only thinking about $20 million, $30 million a year to compensate these players for the next 2 or 3 years. I think that's very doable. But like I said, I don't see the PGA Tour changing very much, but I do see some of the bigger events. And let's just speculate again. The Australian Open, the Japanese Open, the Canadian Open that's on this week. I expect those tournaments, hopefully, to be much bigger down the track.
Yeah, absolutely. The bigger issue here, I think, is the moral climb down from the PGA. It's quite stunning to see. What is your opinion on this whole idea of sports washing that has been raised and how that is viewed? Do fans just overlook it? Should players overlook it? What do you do here?
Yeah, the climb down is a very good term. It's the first one I've heard. It's a really good way of explaining the situation at the moment. Look, sports washing, yes, it is. It's sports washing. There is no other way to view what is going on. Now, for fans, if golf fans don't like the sports washing, they'll turn off. But the fans of Formula One, they haven't turned off. The fans of darts haven't turned off. We're seeing Cristiano Ronaldo at the moment playing in the Saudi Arabian Football League. Lionel Messi was reportedly offered a lot of money. We've just found out that he's going to Miami. Here's a question for you. Why wasn't there sports washing terms thrown around 5 years ago when the same money was looking after women's golf, the same money was looking after the Grand Prix, the same money was looking after players going and playing, in the Saudi Arabian Soccer League? To me, it's been very selective. And one of the reasons it's been so selective and just the golfers have had to shoulder is because this is how the PGA Tour armed themselves with the initial split. They used everything possible. And then you had a couple of journalists from the Golf Channel, Brandel Chambly and Eamon Lynch. They really jumped on board the sports washing and they centralised it to just the handful of golfers that went across that meant a lot to the PGA Tour. So Bryson DeChambeau, Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, all these players were being lashed with sports washing by the PGA Tour players who stood up and voiced their disregard for the players who jumped across, and also Brandel Chambly and Eamon Lynch. They went as hard as they possibly could. That's how they armed themselves, and that's how they tried to stop other players going across. Now, you fast forward 2 years to the future, and all of a sudden the Saudi money is welcomed, and everyone's stepping down. So I can only say
point. Yeah, it's a good point.
They used it to try and stop them going across.
Well, I think it was so stark as well. There wasn't, a lead in, small amounts of money, and, the Saudis weren't playing the long game here. They wanted to do this straight away, and I think that's, why it was such a big deal. I don't know. But you mentioned Brooks Koepka winning the PGA Championship. Was that a turning point?
Yes, I think Brooks winning the PGA Championship was a turning point. I also think the Adelaide LIV event was a turning point because the PGA Tour saw what it meant to Australian sports fans down here. The LIV golf event in Adelaide was the best one by a million miles, completely. You looked at Singapore the week after, there was nobody there was no interest. You look at all the other LIV events, there was nobody there really and not much interest. The ratings tell us that. So, I think you're right. I think Brooks winning was a big part of it, but I think the biggest thing that the PGA Tour saw and what they saw from the Saudi side was just how many people were looking at the Adelaide event.
You're right. It was amazing. And it
really
brought people who, like me, who think that golf is boring, is like watching paint dry. No offence, Mark, but, it brought me to that event. Look, it probably had a lot to do with the fact that the LIV Golf Australian CEO, Nick Haslam, did such a good job, and he is an Adelaide boy, so maybe he had something to do with that there. He just knew how to tap in.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And, I saw the South Australian Premier speaking about it yesterday, hoping that they'll get their event back. I think they will. I think they've got to be rewarded. You can't take an event away like that now that, LIV will be no more in 2024. So how their tournaments and the events that they want to be involved with, how they look, well, those details will surface pretty soon. But, hopefully, fingers crossed, LIV get back to, or certainly, well, the PGA Tour gets back to Adelaide, and hopefully we get a couple more as well.
Hope so. It's been a pleasure to talk to you this morning, Mark Allen. Not that I'm surprised, but I never thought I'd be so excited to talk golf, but here I am. Great to see you.
Good on you, Laura.
We'll get you back soon.